Welcome to the podcast. My name's Scott and I'm here with Andy.
Hello.
Andy is a big mind when it comes to all things holistic and alternative. So we're going to have a little discussion today as our first podcast and just see where it takes us. So, Andy, welcome.
Thank you.
What should we speak about today? You've got an introduction ready?
Well, I suppose really it is just going to be an introduction as to what we're going to speak about.
Yeah.
And as far as that is concerned, it's really just going to be a case of putting together my journey through my life of what I've learned and how I've utilised that to basically be where I am today.
Okay, fascinating story. Where do you want to start?
Well, I won't start at my birth or my childhood or anything like that. That would just be a bit too cringe. But the journey has all been about exploration, self-exploration, both in physical health, emotional health, and everything connected to that. So it's been a full-on journey.
Yep.
And probably the most important thing is the aspect of just being open-minded to whatever information has come my way. And the longer it's gone on, wow, it's like as long as you're open to information, you will find what some people call coincidences, other people call synchronicities. You'll just see them fall into place. Like this week has been crazy when we made the decision that we are going to do this podcast today. Yeah. It's been, and you've been witness to that as well.
Yep. Okay, so for context, me and Andy actually do a lot of work together. We've known each other a couple of years now, and probably the last 2 months we've been speaking about a podcast. 2-3 months.
Yeah.
Basically to delve into Andy's mind and the way he lives, and to open up the conversation, for other people as well. I guess to show that the world isn't necessarily the way we believe it is in terms of everything.
And most importantly, we have far more power and control over our own existence and reality than we ever dreamed of as an individual reality for yourself, as opposed to the collective reality, which will go on being what it is. And our relationship with that, but within our own personalities, and how we react and perceive everything around us.
And through doing work with you and the HK session I've had, the Tesla scan that I've had, I've also found out that I'm actually in a lot more control. I'm in control of a lot more things, everything, but a lot more things than I thought I was maybe 2-3 years ago.
So I suppose really, just to clarify, HK stands for holographic kinetics, which I'm now and have been since 2017 a learned practitioner. And that really, the holographic kinetics is a modality that has been put together by a guy called Steve Richards in Australia, who has ancestral ties to the Aboriginals of Australia, and basically how he understands, or how the Aboriginals understand, universal law and how this realm works and our relationship with it. And he basically formulated a way, a modality of how to, basically, for want of a better word, hack any issues that we have that are holding us back. And what he did is he dovetailed it from the Aboriginal knowledge of universal law of law, into something that the Western mind would be able to work with and use to their own advantage for each individual. So it's used primarily as a sort of mind way of managing your mind and your thoughts, but in actual fact, it's way more way
Way
more
more. Yeah.
involved and deeper than that. It involves everything, because at the end of the day, our mind governs our relationships, our both, with personal relationships as well as out in the real world,
Yeah.
work world, our own thought processes, etc. So that's been where my life took a massive change. It was a game changer for me doing that course, a week-long course, intense, but just so beneficial. So that's really my flagship of what I do. And having found work through the Pain Genie, which is a way of dealing with physical health issues, and the Tesla machine, I've brought them into my repertoire of work as a way of opening the door for people to realize that there's a lot more help and knowledge for people to learn and to help them with their own issues, whatever they may be, other than just going down the mainstream,
The traditional route.
the traditional route.
Yeah.
And I find that's a good, for a lot of people, talking about holographic kinetics can be somewhat, whoa, that's a little bit too much of a step for them. But the technology that I've managed to acquire just takes things to a whole new level, and people see it in action and like, wow, so they see real changes
Yeah.
in real time. But the bottom line being really is that that's a segue for them understanding how much power they have themselves to be able to create the internal reality and external reality for what they want.
So Andy's a practitioner of holographic kinetics, which I guess, to put it in a nutshell, effectively is used as like a treatment session, an alternative treatment session, where you're speaking to spirit and you can open up the conversation to find out where maybe certain mental or certain issues, or trauma or anything like that, may have occurred in a lifetime, and then allows you to deal with that and try and correct it. Sometimes the issue needs to go deeper, right?
Yeah.
But most of the time you can clear that issue up. But yeah, I was just absolutely amazed by it when you first sort of talked to me about HK, but then also after my first session, just the very subtle changes as well over time after the treatment, after the therapy, I guess. Sort of 2-3 months down the line, when you look back and you think, well, what are the issues that I went in with? Just completely gone. And it's not unless you sort of take awareness and look at what it was you went in for and how it is now that you actually realize that it corrected itself, which did open up, like we say, taking full control of yourself and full power. You then start to realize that these things you can correct, you can take control.
And I think that's the main reason why I decided to do this podcast with you. Is because, having been an avid listener and reader for over 30 years now, of wanting to learn, I think that probably took place when I first went traveling to Southeast Asia when I was 20. And it's interesting really how that works. When I went away traveling, all of a sudden I had 24 hours a day, or more like 18 hours a day, to occupy my own mind. I had no distractions. I didn't have the distraction of school, college, universities, for example. Didn't have the distraction of radio on during the day, or work, or television, or your
mobile
mates,
phones
your family,
then.
friends. Or there weren't no mobile phones back then.
Yeah.
So you don't realise until you come away from all of that, wow, how many thoughts you have in the space of a minute, let alone an hour or a day. And obviously a lot of those thoughts can be limiting, and your self chatter can be debilitating. But what it does do also is makes you realise how much is going on in yourself and in the world that you've been previously distracted by through basically the world we live in.
The Western world, especially.
Full distractions all the time.
So I guess it opens up the opportunity to become aware of your thoughts to start with.
Absolutely.
But then also take accountability for those thoughts and take note as well.
Yeah.
Of the things that maybe you thought before, and then you've got a clear mind. You're not distracted by society, etc. Yeah, I've been in a couple of positions, holidays myself, where I've been the same, not away from my mobile phone, but away from the Western, say, media. Just the everyday distractions, the pressure of work, them kind of things. And it does give you an opportunity to sort of almost let your mind relax, and then you can. I guess it's the same in meditation. When you meditate, you sort of not think, but you're aware of your thoughts and what's going on in your mind. And when I've been away and, walking along a beach or through the forest and stuff in Thailand that we did, your mind kind of relaxes and opens up to what you're really thinking and what you're really feeling. And also like things like wants and needs, and, it makes you realize that the life you're living every day, I guess, is very, what would be the right term to use? Almost very caged.
Very limited.
Very limited, yeah.
Yeah.
Very limited based on the, where you live, what's around you, your environment. And yeah, it's great. So after the traveling in your younger years?
I was always been in the trades. I worked as a printer for probably the first 20 years of my working life.
Yeah.
And then found myself in the print and trade. Obviously died of death over the years. And so I found myself in other trades to basically earn a living and put food on the table for the family. And it's been quite interesting because I found myself in a trade again almost by luck and divine intervention, where I could listen to podcasts about
whilst working
the bigger things in life. They're asking the bigger questions.
Yeah.
So in a way, I was getting paid to educate myself on the things that I'd already been learning, but was being distracted by other things in life, such as entertainment and work, etc. So it wasn't until really that me and my wife had children, or when she got pregnant, that I went, hello, I better start taking some responsibility. Until you have responsibilities, for me, I didn't realise really I was living a bit of a wild life. Not too crazy, but it depends on people's perspective, really.
Yeah, perspective. Yeah.
But it made me realise, okay, I need to take responsibility now. I'm bringing a child into the world and have to bring that child up. And that completely changed my focus on what I was doing. And that's when I really started probably searching all the questions that had come up in the previous 15 years.
Yeah, allowed you to delve a lot deeper and learn a lot more.
So by doing that, everything then started fitting into place. All the stuff I'd been learning through experience has now been put into place with the knowledge I was learning as well.
Okay. So what was your first, let's say, interaction or investment within, I'm trying to think how to word it. What would you say was a turning point in terms of as you delve deeper into these, I guess, different paths of learning different things? What was like a turning point where you thought to yourself, okay, maybe I'm onto something here. Maybe I know that I'm heading down the right path, and I know this is where I want to go.
Well, that's in a way it's a two-part question, because for one, ever since I was a child, I always knew, it was just instinctive in me, intuitive, that I knew I was on a path of sorts. It had never been just random.
Okay.
Even as a child, I was picking up lessons and going, okay, I would always pick up on certain information
Yeah.
and certain vibes and energies from other people, and was always aware. So I always had a lot of self-awareness myself, but also of other people and information. So it's been an ongoing thing, as opposed to, oh, one day everything just clicked.
Yeah. So a full life journey.
I didn't have no David Icke experience where all of a sudden I'm being downloaded with information for 6 hours in the middle of Peru. It was something. It was a steady flow of just being aware of life,
Okay.
and my place in it, albeit difficult at times. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. How would you say that how would you say that the holographics kinetics course, is that the first one you've done?
No, I did a counselling course in 2012,
Okay.
knowing that the print trade was coming to an end and I needed to find something that,
Like a plan B almost.
yeah, that was going to facilitate me being able to earn some money for the next, well, basically no pension, for the rest of my life.
Okay.
And that was such an interesting aspect of the journey, because without going through those 3 years of counselling training, again, it just shows that everything's happened for a reason and has led me on to the next stage, which is why I wanted to do this podcast. I've been putting it off for years.
Yeah.
I've sort of hummed and hawed with it, but what I found is I've listened to some great minds talk about information, which you've listened to as well, whether it be Quantum of Conscience, whether it be Archaics, some incredible minds out there. But there's always been a bit that I've listened to from everyone from those early days of reading the books, etc., where I'm like, there's a bit missing.
Yeah.
There's a bit missing here and there's a bit missing there, which I've kind of picked up.
The puzzle together.
I've pieced it together through my own experiences.
Yeah. And I guess you'd navigate that, you've told me this before, but you navigate that through your intuition.
Yeah.
So you let intuition guide.
Yeah.
And you kind of do what you feel you should do.
That goes back again to that childhood of just having that awareness.
Yeah.
And it was, in reality, I kind of really almost submerged that. It was always there and I never ignored it and I acknowledged it, but I kind of just kept it to one side because I was living in the real world of commerce and entertainment, etc., etc.
Yeah. Which I guess a lot of people do. I'm the same.
It's designed that way.
Yeah, I'm the same. Through school, I always felt like I'd look at things maybe a little bit differently to people.
Yeah.
I always was different in my beliefs about the world and just everyday things, really. And you kind of do put it to one side for the high school to fit the norm, don't you?
Yeah.
To fit in with the other kids and the school system. But as I grew up, doors opened for me as well, the same way they did for you. And you kind of navigate that with your intuition. But since, let's just say, the last 5 years, there's been a big surge, I think, in the collective conscience waking up to maybe the way that you feel and the way that you think, and the way that you live.
Yeah, but that's really all about the universe keeping in balance. We know what happened 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whenever it be 2020 onwards.
Yeah.
We know there was a big push at control people's minds and getting people thinking in certain ways. And what's the best way to do that? Through fear. And we know we went through a fear festival big time for the collective.
Yeah.
And only when people come out the other side do they look back. And most people have kind of blanked it out. It's almost like a form of honeycombing off their minds and their brains as to what happened.
Yeah.
A lot of people I've spoken to or I've heard speaking about, I can't really remember that time. And you're like, okay, what's all that about? Because they were in a state of trauma.
Yeah.
It was collective trauma.
Okay.
And because of that, what happens, bring everything back into balance, is when fear is pushed to such a degree
Yep.
to keep everything in balance in the universe, then that aspect of people in the collective has to then start asking questions. Well, why did I feel like that? So they might not necessarily collate that fear and what happened there and what was going on, but they do know that there's questions being asked. So even if they're not consciously aware, they're starting asking questions. Well, what is this and why is that and what's going on? And we've seen a massive rise in that.
I guess that's universal law, though, right? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I've myself noticed the same as you, but it's nice that you can have the conversation with a lot more people now. That it's kind of people have gone through that and come out the other side, and maybe their minds are more open to things. And it's nice that you can have the conversation and try and, not necessarily. I guess the way to say it, you can open the narrative with people. You can have different conversations about different things, and it's almost as if the opposite reaction has been bigger than the action itself. I feel, but then that's probably my circle. But yeah, I definitely feel people are now looking at alternative ways of living, or alternative ways of alternative mindsets. I come from a health, fitness, well-being kind of background as well. Something that's been a passion since I was a teenager, and I've myself noticed a big push in people wanting to take care of themselves, looking at everything from their day-to-day lifestyles to their food to the everything they're doing. The gyms, I guess a lot of it is maybe it's the fear of, if everything is as they said it was, I need to look after myself a bit more, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely interesting times, interesting conversations to be had. I'm looking forward to where the podcast goes, definitely.
Yeah, well, that's quite interesting, Scott, because I don't know where it's going to go.
No.
I made a decision. One of the reasons why I put it off for so long is because I don't want to be sat in front of the camera telling people how to live their lives.
Yeah.
Because I was always very much an advocate of, thank you very much, I'll worry about myself. Yeah. You worry about yourself and get on with your life. I'm living my path. I've been a bit rough around the edges. That's life. You learn.
As we all have.
But I've always stayed true on a path of, it's about integrity. It always has been about integrity with me. So, it's interesting. I know by doing this podcast, one of the reasons I've kind of put it off is you can't appeal to everyone. And part of my, I suppose, issues growing up is wanting to be accepted and wanting to appeal to, not wanting to fall out with people and all the rest of that, what comes with that.
Yeah.
But you know what? Sometimes you can't be off it.
No.
You're never going to see eye to eye with everyone. Your message isn't going to appeal to everyone. And the sooner you come to terms with that, as long as you're acting in integrity and with honesty, who listens and who doesn't listen and who mocks and who ridicules, whatever.
It's irrelevant.
Do you know what I mean? Get on with it. Because really one of the sayings that really sort of hit hard on this journey was, what other people think of me is none of my business. They can think what they want.
Yeah.
Because I know within myself that integrity and that honesty runs as best it can.
And the intentions are pure.
Well, at the end of the day, I realised that once I'd done that HK course, you look at yourself on an even deeper level. So doing that counselling course really opened up a can of worms.
Yeah.
Anyone who's done a counselling course will know the same. There was 26 of us started a 3-year course. Some of them hadn't signed up for 3 years. I'd only signed up for 1 year.
Okay.
Because I thought, just get my foot on the path on a new career, so to speak. But literally 26 people started over the spring and autumn seasons. 6 people finished the course, and only 2 of us went on to do any form of therapy.
Professional work in it.
Yeah. Why such a big dropout rate? You'll find out as the podcasts go on.
Yeah.
Because I will delve into that and delve into how our minds work and why they work like they do, as well as how that affects the physical body and how it's all connected. And really, until you govern your mind, self-awareness, govern your own mind, rather than have your mind governed by something, institutions, or by others around you, until you can start to get control and hold of that, then everything else is just a distraction. And really at that point, talking about the synchronicities that have taken place this week, and it's just like, wow, I picked up a book recommended to me by a friend, a good friend of mine who lives in Ireland. He is on his own path and he recommended this book to me, and I thought, you know what, I know what a deep thinker he is. Hello to Martin in Hanaway. If I know you don't really go on the internet, but if ever you listen to this, I just wanted to say, okay, because one of the things for me is I will look at different angles and different aspects of life from different perspectives. Really what I'm been trying to do, I'm aware of it consciously now and have been for a while, is I'm seeing where the patterns are similar, where they match up from all different angles and variations of life and cultures, etc. Because there are always patterns, and it's amazing. And that's why I said to you earlier about there was certain aspects I'm like, but you're missing this bit and you're missing that bit. They're not missing. Everyone's on their own journey. But
they just haven't come across that part yet.
Whereas if I've had the experiences that kind of link these things together, it's like, really, in a way, I have a duty to share them as well,
so they can piece together their journey quicker.
Indeed. Well,
in the same way you found your pieces to the puzzle, this is someone's piece to their puzzle, what they're trying to figure out.
Absolutely. And you know, I'm grateful to all of the information that I've listened to and read over the years, because everyone brings something to the table. We learn from each other all the time.
So what were the synchronicities with the book this week?
Okay, so it wasn't this week, it was last night. And I'm reading this book.
Just to let everybody know, this podcast was meant to happen last week. And then again Tuesday night. And we got held up at work. So we decided to do it Saturday when we had no work booked in and we were completely free. So that's a synchronicity in itself, that you had the synchronicity last night.
Oh, absolutely.
In preparation, ready for this.
Absolutely.
Today. Back from a bathroom break. So for those who may be unsure, when we say chairs creaking, when we say synchronicity in terms of how we're talking about it, we mean like a coincidence. But when you're aware of that coincidence, you realize it's actually a synchronicity, almost to confirm that you are headed down the right path and you're looking into the right things. So Andy's synchronicity in the book last night was...
Okay, so this is the book that I received, well, that was recommended to me by my mate Martin in Ireland.
Just read out what it's called.
Autobiography of a Yogi.
Of a Yogi, okay.
So I've never been down the road of necessarily studying or researching or philosophizing religion.
Okay.
But having been brought up loosely within a Catholic family to a degree, which teaches you an awful lot about religion in itself, I thought, well, I'll pick this book up. Obviously, I travelled a lot in Southeast Asia in my 20s. So literally, I thought, I'll have a look at this, because I always saw things within their culture and within their society and that I was very interested in and aware of. But I read this last night, and it's one of the saints of in India, a guy called Dayumanava, gave this following challenging poem.
Okay.
You may control a mad elephant. You may shut the mouth of the bear and the tiger. ride the lion, and play with the cobra. By alchemy, you may earn your livelihood. You may wander through the universe incognito, make vassals of the gods, be ever youthful. You may walk on water and live in fire, but control of the mind is better and more difficult. And I was just like, wow. On the day before I'm going to do this podcast, we're doing it today. I read that.
I like that.
I went on to read on the very next page, because we all know India has a caste system, but what we don't realise is the caste system, which we know today, is not the caste system it's always been. We know the caste system is very divisive. You're born into a particular caste system, and your life is already mapped out for you. And it's kind of like, what's all that about? I didn't realise until last night that actually that was not the origins of the caste system.
Right.
Which kind of blew my mind a little bit. But
this is what this is about, right?
The origin of the caste system, well, it ties in with what I was saying about the mind and our own journeys in life. The origin of the caste system, formulated by the great legislator Manu, was admirable. He saw clearly that men are distinguished by natural evolution into 4 great classes. Those capable of offering service to society through their bodily labour, known as the Sudras. Those who serve through mentality, skill, agriculture, trade, commerce, business life in general, are the Vaisyas. Excuse my pronunciation of these, I'm not Indian. Thirdly, those whose talents are administrative, executive, and protective, rulers and warriors, which is, how do you pronounce that one? Kshatriyas. And fourthly, those of contemplative nature, spiritually inspired and inspiring, Brahmins. Neither birth, nor sacraments, nor study, nor ancestry can decide whether a person is twice born, i.e. a Brahmin. The Mahabharata declares character and conduct only can decide. And then another very interesting aspect. Inclusion in one of these 4 castes originally depended not on a man's birth, but on his natural capacities as demonstrated by the goal in life he elected to achieve. This is written by Tara Mata in East West for January 1935. This goal could be 1. Karma, desire, activity of the life of the senses, the Sudra stage. 2. Artha, gain, fulfilling but controlling the desires. That's the Vaisya stage. 3. Dharma, self-discipline, the life of responsibility and right action. That's the Kshatriya stage. And 4. Moksha, liberation, the life of spirituality and religious teaching, the Brahman stage. These 4 castes under service to humanity by 1 body, 2 mind, 3 willpower, and 4 spirit. These 4 stages have their correspondence in the eternal gunas or qualities of nature, tamas, rajas, and sattva. Sattva, obstruction, activity, and expansion, or mass, energy, and intelligence. The 4 natural castes are marked by the gunas as 1. Tamas, ignorance. 2. Tamas rajas, mixture of ignorance and activity. 3. Rajas sattva, mixture of right activity and enlightenment. 4. Sattva as enlightenment. Don't necessarily agree with the term enlightenment, but it is what it is. Thus has nature marked every man with his caste by the predominance in himself of 1 or the mixture of 2 of the gunas. Of course, every human being has all 3 gunas in varying proportions. The guru will be able rightly to determine a man's caste or evolutionary status. Again, I don't agree with the term guru, but it is what it is. To a certain extent, all races, nations observe in practice, if not in theory, the features of caste. Where there is a great license or so-called liberty, particularly in intermarriage between extremes in the natural castes, the race dwindles away and becomes extinct. Now that in itself was like, whoa, that's a, the Purana Samhita compares the offspring of such unions to barren hybrids. Like the mule, which is incapable of propagation of its own species, artificial species are eventually exterminated. That was a bit of a wow moment. That last sentence, interesting. Again, like I said in this podcast, I don't necessarily agree with everything I read, but I always have an open mind to what I'm reading and listening to, and allow it in to my heart and my mind, and I then just let it sit on the back shelf, and then personal experiences or other information then comes into my existence, which either can agree with that and kind of make it okay, I can see how that works, or not, as the case may be. So really, I suppose it's important for me to say that I'm not reading this from a religious perspective. Everything is a case of just being open to information, from all angles, because the bottom line is we are multidimensional beings living in a multidimensional world. And that is the key, where many aspects of different information I've listened to have not brought all of that together on in an understanding that for me is kind of like there's a massive part of the jigsaw there that brings everything together and gets us in a position to take back control of our lives on so many levels, physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual, blah blah blah. Okay,
excellent. Looking forward to the next one.
Okay,
thanks for listening. Catch you on the next one.